Johnny Depp stepped off the plane, blending effortlessly into the crowd at the small airport. He wore a worn-out hat, sunglasses, and a simple jacket, nothing flashy, nothing that screamed celebrity. His goal wasn't to draw attention. In fact, he preferred it that way. This trip was about a charity event for sick children, not red carpets or the constant flashing of cameras. He was here to support a cause that meant something to him, not to be the center of attention. After gathering his small bag, Johnny walked toward the car rental area. He had booked the vehicle through his assistant earlier in the week, and all he needed to do now was pick it up. The terminal was quiet, with only a few passengers waiting around. He could feel the anticipation of the upcoming event, but he didn't want to think about it just yet. When Johnny reached the counter, a young woman behind the desk looked up from her computer. Her eyes widened just for a second as she recognized him. For a moment, it seemed like she might say something, but she quickly caught herself. She didn't say a word. Instead, she greeted him with a friendly but professional smile, as if nothing was out of the ordinary. Johnny smiled back, offering a calm and polite nod. He gave her the name under which the reservation had been made. It was all routine, nothing special. At least, that's what he hoped. Johnny stood quietly at the counter, waiting for the assistant to return. She had stepped away briefly, leaving him with a few minutes to kill. He glanced around the car rental area, trying to remain as low-key as possible. But even in his simple attire, a few curious eyes followed him, which he tried to ignore. After what felt like an eternity, the assistant still hadn't returned. Johnny cleared his throat and approached the counter again, gently explaining that his reservation was made under his name. He tried to keep his tone calm, but there was a sense of impatience starting to creep in. That's when the manager, Brad, stormed into the area. He was tall, with a stern look on his face, clearly annoyed by something. He caught sight of Johnny standing at the counter and immediately scowled. "You having a problem here?" Brad snapped, his voice booming. Johnny hesitated before replying, trying to stay composed. "I'm just here to pick up a car I reserved under my name," he said, keeping his voice steady. Brad didn't bother to look at the system. Instead, he scoffed and crossed his arms. "Do you even have a reservation? This isn't a shelter, pal. It's a business," he said, glaring down at Johnny with a mix of arrogance and disdain. Johnny was taken aback by the harshness, but he remained calm. "Yes, I do. I've been waiting for my assistant to confirm everything." Brad didn't seem to care, though. With a dismissive smirk, he said, "Well, you can come back when you can afford the full rate. This isn't a charity after all." His tone was dripping with sarcasm, as though Johnny's presence was a burden. A woman waiting nearby stepped forward, visibly upset. "Excuse me, that's uncalled for," she said, trying to defend Johnny. But Brad just waved her off, his eyes never leaving Johnny. "Mind your own business," he retorted. Then, turning to Johnny, he added, "Why don't you just leave already? We don't have time for this." Johnny, feeling the tension rise, quietly shook his head. He didn't want to cause a scene, so he simply turned and walked out of the office without saying a word about who he was. The moment he stepped out, the weight of the interaction lingered in the air. He didn't need to prove himself to anyone. Mia, a young employee who had been standing off to the side, watched the entire exchange with wide eyes. She couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. The way Brad had treated the man, so dismissively, so cruelly, was unbelievable. And then it clicked. The moment Johnny Depp had taken off his sunglasses before leaving, Mia saw his face clearly. She recognized him instantly. "That was Johnny Depp," she whispered to her coworker, her voice shaky. Her heart was still racing, the shock evident in her eyes. "I saw his face when he took off his glasses." Her coworker, a slightly older man named Greg, blinked in disbelief. "Are you sure?" he asked, not fully convinced. Mia nodded, her panic rising. "I'm sure. I swear, it was him." But before she could say more, Brad overheard the conversation. He scoffed loudly, rolling his eyes in a dismissive manner. "If he was Johnny Depp, he'd be in a limo, not standing here like a regular guy. Get real," he laughed, brushing it off as if the idea was completely ridiculous. Mia felt her stomach twist. She wasn't wrong. She had seen the man's face. She didn't care if Brad mocked her. It didn't change the truth. She pulled out her phone, hands trembling, and quickly searched for Johnny Depp's name. It didn't take long for her to find the details. Johnny was in town for a charity event that very night, one dedicated to raising funds for sick children. The truth began to sink in, and Mia's eyes widened with realization. The other employees started to gather around, whispers spreading like wildfire. They all began to realize the magnitude of what had just happened. They weren't just witnesses to some random encounter, they had seen a celebrity treated horribly, and worse, by their own manager. Hours passed and the events at the car rental office seemed to slip from the minds of most employees. The chaos had died down and everyone tried to return to their regular tasks, but for Mia and the others who had witnessed the confrontation, the tension lingered. They couldn't stop thinking about how Brad had treated Johnny Depp, no matter who he was. It felt wrong, personal, even. At the company's regional office, the mood was about to change drastically. The phone rang at the desk of the regional director, Thomas Carmichael, an older man known for his no-nonsense approach. He picked up the phone, expecting it to be another routine business call. But the voice on the other end was far from routine. "Mr. Carmichael, this is Lucy Martinez from the Children's Hope Foundation. I'm calling because we've encountered a problem with one of our rentals," the woman said, her voice tight and professional. "One of your customers, a very important guest of ours, was treated very poorly by a member of your staff today. Johnny Depp, Mr. Depp's team has requested a different rental location for his car, citing unacceptable treatment." Thomas felt his stomach drop. Johnny Depp, the actor, he had to be mistaken. This had to be some kind of joke. "I'm sorry, there must be some misunderstanding," Thomas replied, trying to remain calm. "Can you explain what happened?" Lucy went on to explain the situation, how Brad had mocked Johnny, disregarded his reservation, and essentially kicked him out without any real cause. She told him about the charity event Johnny was attending, and how the treatment was both unprofessional and entirely inappropriate for someone of his stature. Thomas was alarmed. He had worked with some big clients in his time, but Johnny Depp was a different level entirely. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I'll look into it immediately," he said, his voice tight with concern. Within minutes, Thomas had made a few calls, first to the car rental branch, then to the staff working that day. The full story came rushing back to him, and the more he heard, the angrier he became. He demanded to see the surveillance footage from the branch, needing to see it for himself. The footage was clear, there was no denying what had happened. Brad's attitude, his treatment of Johnny, it was all there, and it was worse than Thomas had imagined. Within the hour, Thomas arrived at the branch, his face stern. He didn't waste any time. "I need to speak to Brad," he said, his voice cold with authority. Everyone in the office knew something big was about to happen. Brad was sitting in his office, trying to keep his cool, but the moment Thomas Carmichael, the regional director, walked in, he could feel his heart race. Thomas didn't look pleased. Brad stood up quickly, attempting to appear unbothered by the situation. "What's this all about, Thomas?" Brad asked, trying to sound casual. "I don't know what kind of mess this is, but I didn't do anything wrong." Thomas's eyes narrowed, his voice low and steady. "Don't even try to deny it. I've already heard everything. You treated a customer, no, not just any customer, a human being with such disrespect, and that's what matters here." Brad shifted uneasily, his arrogance faltering. "I don't know what you're talking about. The guy was scruffy, had a bad attitude. I had no idea who he was." He tried to shrug it off, as if he'd done nothing more than scold a regular customer. But Thomas wasn't having it. "It's not about who he was," he said sharply. "It's about how you treated him. You had no right to speak to anyone like that, especially not a paying customer. And from what I'm hearing, you were particularly cruel." Brad's face reddened as the employees in the office began to chime in. Mia stood up nervously, but with conviction. "I was there, Brad," she said softly, her voice shaking. "You mocked him, you made fun of his appearance, and told him to leave when all he wanted was his reservation. It was Johnny Depp. I know it was him. You treated him horribly." Another employee, Greg, nodded. "We all saw it, and when Mia tried to speak up, you brushed her off. We've all got text messages about it, and we've got the surveillance footage to back up her story." Mia's hands trembled as she pulled out her phone, showing Thomas the messages she had sent to her friends, confirming what had happened. Then they played the surveillance footage from the cameras that had captured the entire exchange, every insult Brad had hurled. Brad's face drained of color. As the reality hit him, he looked around the room, seeing the looks of disappointment on the faces of his colleagues. His time had come. Thomas stood up, his voice hard as stone. "Brad, I'm not going to waste any more time with you. You're fired." Brad opened his mouth to argue, but the words died on his lips. He stormed out of the office, his face twisted in anger and humiliation, but his body language betrayed his defeat. He was shaken, and he knew it. Mia, feeling a mixture of relief and nervousness, turned to Thomas. He nodded at her, his expression softening just slightly. "You did the right thing, Mia. Speaking up was the right choice, even when it was hard. You should be proud." Mia felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had done the right thing, and now, Brad's actions had consequences. But she couldn't shake the thought of what had almost happened, and what had been avoided. The next morning, the car rental branch was running smoothly again, but there was an underlying tension. Mia couldn't shake the memory of what had happened the day before, everything from the confrontation with Brad to the shocking outcome. It had all felt so surreal, like something out of a dream. But then, just as the morning rush started to slow, the door of the rental office swung open. Mia looked up, her breath catching in her throat. There, standing in the doorway, was Johnny Depp. He wasn't dressed in anything extravagant. Just a simple outfit, sunglasses perched on his nose, and a smile that made him seem almost unassuming. He walked up to the counter with quiet confidence, not drawing attention, but still somehow lighting up the room. Mia's heart pounded as she stepped forward to greet him. "Hello," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm so sorry for what happened yesterday. He's been let go." Johnny nodded, his smile never wavering. "I appreciate that," he said calmly, his voice warm. "I just wanted to be treated with respect, like anyone else. You were the only one who treated me kindly, so thank you." Mia felt a wave of relief wash over her, her stomach unclenched. She had been worried that Johnny would be angry or disappointed, but his calm demeanor reassured her. She had done the right thing. Johnny reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. He handed it to Mia with a gentle smile. "This is for you," he said softly. Mia took it, her hands trembling slightly. She opened the note, and inside was a personal message from Johnny, thanking her for her honesty and bravery. It was signed simply, "Johnny." Without another word, Johnny turned and walked out of the office. Mia watched as he climbed into a simple car, not some flashy sports car or limo, but just a regular vehicle. He drove off quietly, disappearing into the distance. Mia stood there, the note still in her hands, a quiet smile spreading across her face. It wasn't just about the note, it was about knowing she had made a difference in a small yet meaningful way. After Johnny left, Mia stood frozen for a moment, still holding the note in her hands. Her heart was pounding as she slowly unfolded the paper. She read the words written in neat handwriting. "To Mia, thank you for being brave. The world needs more kindness, Johnny Depp." Her eyes lingered on the message, a rush of emotions sweeping through her. She hadn't expected this, certainly not the kindness and gratitude from someone like Johnny Depp. The weight of his words settled in her heart. It wasn't just a note, it was a reminder that kindness mattered, no matter who you were or what situation you were in. A week later, Mia was in the middle of her shift when an unexpected envelope arrived at the office. Her hands trembled as she opened it, revealing a formal invitation to a charity gala. The letter read, "Dear Mia, we are pleased to inform you that Mr. Johnny Depp has personally requested your presence as a guest of honor at the Children's Hope Foundation Gala. Your kindness and bravery have made a lasting impression. We look forward to seeing you there." Mia's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't believe it. Johnny Depp had personally invited her. On the night of the gala, Mia arrived, dressed in an elegant gown, feeling like she was walking in a dream. As soon as she entered, Johnny spotted her and greeted her with a warm smile. "People like you make the world better," he said, his voice sincere. Mia smiled back, her heart full. She realized in that moment that one small act of kindness had forever changed her life. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this incredible story about kindness, respect, and how one simple act can change everything. It's a reminder that treating people with decency can lead to unexpected and life-changing moments. If you loved the story, don't forget to like this video, comment below with your thoughts, and share it with your friends so they can experience it too. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another heartwarming tale. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Thanks again for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.